By mid-career or the halftime of life, well, there's often more freedom to pursue personal passions, creativity, and legacy building work. And these roles align with deeper missions and artistic expression, offering fulfillment beyond financial necessity. Well, Maslow's pyramid of value, dating back to the 1940s, it outlines 5 levels of human motivation, starting with basic psychological needs and progressing toward self-actualization. A 2025 article expanded on these needs, applying them to career choices. So, as our skills and our experiences grow, we can naturally move higher on the pyramid, giving us more career options that align with our values and our aspirations. So, today we are going to define some of those tiers and apply them personally to our lives. So, stay tuned.
This podcast is brought to you by DJ Works Media and HalftimeSuccess.com, offering resources and insights for those at mid-career or the halftime of life. Explore our diverse categories, including courses, coaching, health, music, software, and travel. We're here to help you make this stage of life your best ever. So get our new articles, downloads, and podcasts by signing up for weekly updates at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. Now, let's dive into today's episode.
The pyramid of value. Where do you stand? Well, we often think of value in terms of money, in terms of possessions, but what if value is actually a map for our growth? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a psychological framework dating back to the 1940s, it outlines 5 levels of human motivation: survival, belonging, growth, impact, and fulfillment. And it was a part of his broader effort to understand what drives human motivation beyond the prevailing psychological theories of his time. And Maslow's approach was rooted in humanistic psychology, a perspective that emphasizes the positive aspects of human nature and the potential for personal growth. And he believed that individuals are motivated by a series of needs. And as each need is satisfied, well, the next higher need becomes more prominent. And this hierarchical model was designed to reflect the universal needs of society, starting from the most fundamental and progressing to more acquired emotions. Now, because I focus, and especially we focus here in this podcast, a lot on the importance of core values and of moving to the next chapter of our life and how those values can influence our purpose, well, that purpose then has an impact on goals, achievement, and ultimately on fulfillment. Taking Maslow's hierarchy of needs and applying it as a pyramid of value, well, it can help us clarify our choices and objectives. So let's start with tier 1, with survival. And here we talk about basics. If we picture this Maslow's pyramid here, this is the base of the pyramid. And when we think of survival, well, the visual of facing a bear on a hiking path comes into focus. Well, my first instinct would be, well, to first freeze. I'd be petrified, right? And then decide which way to run. And it wouldn't be my choice just to stay there to see if it's a friendly bear. No, I would take action. And this is normal and not out of the ordinary. And a survival instinct in the pyramid of value can take on some of the same characteristics. Freeze, then move fast. But however, there are those who stay frozen and are afraid to move, afraid to even run forward in retreat. Well, there are times in our life that we are on that path, whether just graduating from college. I remember those days, starting a new career, or even faced with the loss of a job or in transition for our next chapter. Meeting basic needs, it establishes the essential foundation for everything else. And that's the bear in the path. We have to choose. But too often, people do stay stuck in that survival mode longer than needed. Fear sets in of taking risk, of failure, or even of change. Overcoming that fear with a good plan and guidance will help, but it still takes action. Otherwise, we just continue facing that bear or worse. So let's move on to the next tier. Tier 2, belonging. And this is your story. We need each other. And this was never more apparent than during the shutdowns. A comprehensive meta-analysis encompassing 191 studies and over 1.3 million children and adolescents. Well, they found that approximately 31% exhibited depressive symptoms during this period of time. That's no surprise now. And it marked a notable increase compared to pre-pandemic net levels. And it was associated with factors such as social isolation, disrupted routines, and heightened family stress. And of course, with young children who were kept away from their classmates and their schools, well, it was devastating. So further emphasizing this trend, the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, this is the CDC, that's what we know it as, it reported that in 2021, 44% of U.S. high school students, they felt persistently sad or hopeless. And in 37%, they've experienced poor mental health during the pandemic. And these findings underscore the urgent need for enhanced mental health support and resources for young people, both during crises and in the aftermath. But it also reaffirms the importance of social interaction for all of us. We all notice that Zoom can only do so much, right? Belonging brings connection. And this is where we began to seek out friendships and relationships that align with our identity and our story. We are all unique and we have a story to tell, whether it's finding our tribe at work or building a business that reflects our core values. It's usually intentional to encourage and develop connections with each other. And I'm finding this intentionality is especially relevant at this stage in my life. I'm an introvert by just my work habits. I stay focused. But those intentional relationships are very, very important. So let's move on to our tier 3, lifelong learning. I love this one. And this is all about growth. And it's an important tier because it's all about creating new goals, which come from commitment to lifelong learning and developing really new interests. And when we're feeling stuck and on a plateau, it's a great time really to step back and reevaluate where we are, as well as the depth and the strength of our core values. I like picturing the roots of the oak tree as an example. Well, their longevity is due to slow growth and strong wood and really a deep root system that supports long-term resilience and stability. And the average oak tree, well, it lives 100 to 300 years. Wow. And it depends on the species and environmental conditions, of course. Well, we were able to observe some oak trees when we were in South Africa, but they tended to have a shallower root source and much shorter lifespan. And it's because of the climate and the soil conditions. And several oak species, including the English oak and the pin oak, they've been introduced in places like this, and they're commonly found in regions like the Western Cape. But those oaks are often planted for their aesthetic appeal and historical significance, but they can't last as long as most other oak trees. But like the oak tree, lasting growth in life, it begins with a deep foundation, but it requires a wide reaching exploration. Those are the roots that just extend outward to truly thrive. And just like an oak starts with a strong um, take root, that's a very, very strong root that goes in the ground to anchor it and sustain it. We too need strong core values, solid core values, and a lot of early discipline and foundational knowledge. But as we mature, that growth is sustained not by what just grounds us, but how widely we reach out, seeking new experiences, relationships, and ideas. And the oak's lateral roots, they mirror the importance of continually stretching beyond what's familiar, staying curious and adapting really to new environments, not being afraid of that. That lifelong learning, just like the oak's root system, it's not just vertical, it's expansive, it's resilient, and it's really ever reaching. It's a good visual illustration as we really pursue growth in our lives. So tier 4, love this one. I talk a lot about core values. That's what this is, and that creates impact. Impact is where really I am focusing so much of my lifestyle and business choices at this stage of my life. It's where our core values increasingly start to shape our choices. And what's most important? It's not just money or possessions. It's people, it's time, it's family, it's time with my husband and traveling. It's being able to make a difference. So also in people's lives, I work hard to be able to do that. Well, in Southern California, many of us carry earthquake insurance as a part of, because a large earthquake can be devastating. We are no exception to that. We carry that insurance. And I've learned that the magnitude of an earthquake is measured on a logarithmic, how do I say this? Logarithmic scale. This means that with each whole number, the increase represents approximately 32 times more energy in general. So this means a magnitude of 6 can cause strong shaking and some damage in populated areas, but a magnitude of 7, it releases about 32 times more energy and a magnitude of 6. So it causes more widespread, serious damage over a larger area. Magnitude 8 earthquake, it releases about 1,000 times more energy than a magnitude of 6 because the 32 times 32 is 1,000 number. It means a magnitude of 8, it can result in catastrophic destruction over hundreds of kilometers. It's a multiplication principle. So we just saw Myanmar experience a 7.7 magnitude earthquake on Friday, March 28th of this year. And so far, more than 3,000 people have died and more than 4,500 have been injured. And it was also felt in India and Thailand. And it's a good illustration of the impact of this magnitude. That was 7.7 of a tremor. So as we continue to lead, mentor, and build with consistency, well, there's a multiplication principle. We have to believe that. It may never be as expansive as an earthquake, but impact can have a lasting value through multiple generations. And the values we hold at the core of our purpose, those continue just to be magnified. They will be far-reaching. Well, let's talk about the 5th tier. The fulfillment, the tier of purpose. Well, I experience a huge amount of satisfaction in completing projects, especially those that create impact in other people's lives and businesses. And it took me a while to realize how project-centered and focused I was. Probably everybody else saw it. But I've always known that it's not just about being famous or having more money, but it's about encouraging others, seeing positive change, whether through creating a stage show or through speaking, producing a podcast and videos, or writing books and courses. Well, there's really an internal satisfaction that I get from doing all of this. So it brings me to a good question for all of us to ask ourselves. Where do you stand in the pyramid of values? And what is it that you stand for? more importantly, where do you want to be? So I think this is such a good time to take time to go through these 5 tiers and focus not on just the hierarchy of needs, but really of value. So let's apply this just with a couple principles here. Start with the basics and then move on to defining your unique story and connecting with others. And then reconnect yourself with lifelong learning and creating impact with your core values. They can be so far reaching as the roots of an oak tree. Just picture that with me. And finally, define what fulfillment truly means for you, what brings you true satisfaction as well as happiness. I have a new book coming out, The Power of After, and it's that your next chapter can be really your most fulfilling and your most purposeful. And deciding if this little pyramid of values, I put this even in the book as a little section, tiny section of the whole thing. We talk about a lot of areas in this book. Really creating your next chapter of what do you want your lifestyle to look like? What do you want your business to look like? Where are your core values? How do you use automation? What about AI? What about all of that? There's so many things to learn. So I want to encourage you to really focus on where you are in this little pyramid of values. As this comes out, make sure that you look at the article that comes with this, so that you're getting our newsletter as well. But every single podcast also includes an article. So you want to make sure that you link with that, and you can see the applications. And of course, there's so many applications we can even get with AI with all of the podcast platforms now. So again, my mission here is to help you maximize your skills, your resources, your experience. You have so much to give, especially at the halftime of life, at mid-career. If you're over the age of 40, 45, I'm talking to you. So that's you. Those years come very, very fast. So thanks so much for joining me. This is Deborah Johnson, and I will look forward to being with you again next time. So bye-bye for now.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.